Service your existing car with us right now.
And it's worth £500 off your next car.
Yes, at Macklin Motors Toyota, we'll give you a £500 voucher off any of our brand new Toyotas when you book in for a service with our expert Toyota trained technicians.
We even have complimentary courtesy cars available, so book your service now and get £500 off any new Toyota.
Visit macklinmotors.co.uk or see us at Kennishead Road, Darnley.
Macklin Motors, the new name for Toyota sales and servicing in Glasgow.
Valid on services till 30th September. Excludes Motability and fleet customers. One £500 voucher per vehicle purchased by 31st December.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland.
Let's go!
It's full steam ahead on the full-back front at Rangers with talk of a €6 million bid for Besiktas left-back Ridvan Yilmaz and a new 5-year deal for right-back and captain James Tavernier. Rob McLean with Craig Moore on the Go Radio Football Show. We're going to hear from the Celtic gaffer Ange Postecoglou in the next hour. He was on the other side of the dinner table last night, Craig. Did he pay?
Yes.
Did he pay? That's the big question.
You know what? He actually did. Look, it was great to see him. And I like to do this at the start of the season because I know how busy things get throughout the season. So the first time I've caught up with him in a long, long time. Great to see him. He's enjoying pre-season and looking forward to another season.
Did he notice that you were recording the entire conversation to broadcast tonight?
No, like I says, it was good. Like I says, because there's a lot of things to chat about football wise. A lot of Australians also, Rob, continuing to come into the country. So there's a lot of pressure now on the Aussies to continue to, I guess, to perform because there are a lot of clubs here in Scotland looking at the A-League.
Yeah, absolutely. And the better they do, the more of them will arrive, you would imagine. A couple of significant moves we mentioned there right at the top of the show, Craig. Yilmaz, the Turkish 21-year-old left-back, and a new 5-year deal potentially for James Tavernier. He's going to spend his whole career at Rangers, isn't he?
Well, yeah. I mean, that would certainly look to be the case. And I think Rangers fans and also James Tavernier will be absolutely delighted with that. I think his contribution to the club in the 7 years that he's already been there has been fantastic. He's grown into the role as a captain and done a wonderful job. So, yeah, that's good business. Yilmaz, 21-year-old, potentially £6 million. It's big money. That's big money for a fullback. I mean, I know that Rangers have got a lot of money coming in for the Bassi deal, and he deserved that. And it was too good a deal to knock back. But £6 million, 21-year-old Yilmaz from Besiktas. That's an interesting one, whether or not that goes through and is finalised. That's a younger player that certainly there is some resale value.
I think a 20% sell-on clause in that deal that's been spoken about as well.
Yeah, and look, again, you look at the success stories of players that have gone both at Rangers and Celtic in recent seasons, Aberdeen also with Ramsey. It's like you get the player at the right age and they get that first team experience and they continue their development. There's a lot of money at the other end of that for clubs.
If you want to join the football chat, you know the number 0808 17 17 700. We're going to be talking about Hibs out of the League Cup already. It is a shambles, isn't it? Rocky Bashiri played the other night. Shouldn't have done because he was suspended. But maybe that's a handy smokescreen for them at the moment because I don't think they were going through to the knockout stages anyway, having lost at Falkirk, and they lost on penalties the other night to Morton. But that now is a 3-0 win for Morton. That's how it's recorded. They ain't going through to the knockout stages either. Is Motherwell's European campaign going any further? I wonder. Lost last night in the Europa Conference League, second qualifying round, beaten at Fir Park by Sligo Rovers, and Stephen Reside was there. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Was that pretty miserable last night?
Miserable is one word for it. I could think of another few words that I can't say on the radio.
No, exactly.
But the worrying thing for me is the manager comes out at the end of the game saying that we did enough to win the game. He said before the game that he was happy with the firepower that we had in our team. We looked pretty toothless last night. And I said before the game that we needed another striker in the door. Just because I know Van Dien won't be fit enough to go for the full season. He's quite injury prone. And I think that's evident again last night. I think we need more up front, and certainly need another centre back as well, because there was a lot of times last season where we get done with balls over the top and made silly mistakes, and yet again another mistake last night led to the goal. So if the manager thinks that we're anywhere near complete with our squad, then he's very mistaken. 3 wins in 22 in the year 2022, and there's a lot of room for improvement within our squad.
How good were Sligo Rovers, Stephen, to give us some sort of perspective?
Well, they actually looked like they had a game plan. They moved the ball really well. They obviously knew that they could get in behind our defence, and that is something that they could exploit. They did that on a few occasions. We're probably going into the second leg of this tie lucky to just be at 1-0. They had a good couple of chances. One headed at the back post in the second half, and there was one where our striker was through and goal, 1-on-1, but just couldn't get the shot away. And then they had a shout for the penalty as well. So we're really lucky to be going into this game 1-0. They look as if they have a game plan, and yet again, Motherwell look as if they're just a team that play the ball into areas and hope that there's a player there rather than any other real game plan going forward. It seems to be lump the ball and play off second balls, and when you're not winning the second balls, it looks amateurish.
Stephen, you touch on a disappointing start. I mean, especially at home. These are kind of games where you need to, I guess, get your heads in front and to then go and close the deal. A couple of new players, obviously, with Paul McGinn and Blair Spittle. How did they look on the night?
Well, Spittle, he didn't really set the world alight for me last night. Paul McGinn looked very good. I think he didn't make many mistakes defensively, and he looked as if he could drive the ball forward quite well as well. So yeah, I think McGinn will be a good signing for us. Morris, there was times when he moved the ball a little bit too slowly for me, but again, there was glimpses of a couple of good crosses here and there, and he did have a couple of half chances. So hopefully he can come on again, but it was a bit of a 50-50 performance for him. But I think it's quite difficult to judge new signings so early.
Yeah.
But I do think we definitely need them more.
Just looking at the team, Stephen, Kelly, Mugabe, Morris, Lamy, McGinn, Slattery, Van Veen, Carroll, Maguire, Spittle, Shields. That was the starting 11. Is there a lot to come in to add to that, to improve that, do you think, in terms of looking at the squad at the moment?
Well, we've only got 5 recognised forwards. If you look at our squad breakdown on the website, and one of them is young Mahon, who has been brought in as a youngster in January, who hasn't kicked the ball. So I really think last night the glaring for me was the fact that Ross Tierney never started. I mean, he's somebody that showed glimpses towards the end of last season. He's one of the only players in the team that can carry the ball from midfield. That is, when he gets it in midfield, because we like to play long. But he's capable of carrying the ball, capable of creating something, making something happen, and that for large periods of the game is what was missing last night. Maybe he could start next week, because he has played in Ireland as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, do you have confidence that this can be turned over next week?
Absolutely not.
Right.
I will go there and hope, but I don't have any confidence, because I have seen nothing from this manager's tactics and this team in 2022 to give me any confidence. I think the fact that we qualified for Europe, it didn't just paper over cracks, it papered over chasms, is what it did.
Right.
We got a last minute goal against Livingston, which really I think saved Graham Alexander's job at that point. And then we just did enough to make fifth. I don't even think it was a case of us doing enough, really. I think it was a case of other teams round about us not doing enough to the rest of the season.
So do you want rid of him?
I can't say that at this moment, because we're only one game into the season, so I'm not going to sit here and scream Alexander out. But if this form continues into the start of the season, then it has to go. Because if it continues this way, as it had started in 2022, we will be strong candidates for relegation this season.
It seemed as if opinion Craig was sort of roller coaster at Motherwell about Graham Alexander. It's difficult to oppose him when he qualifies for Europe. I mean that's if Motherwell do that, then that's got to be a success, hasn't it? But over the course of the season, there were spells, there have been spells in his time in charge where the fans just haven't been having him. A bit like Stephen's talking about there.
Yeah. No, I think the difficult thing for the supporters is, of course, they want to see their teams be competitive. And, Motherwell finished not unbelievably well, scraped their way into the top 6, as Stephen touched on there. I think a late equaliser. They are a very direct kind of physical style of play. Whether or not that's to the best ability of the current group, clearly that's a style that they play. It can be tough to watch at times, Stephen, because there's a lot of the games you find where it's just a real battle, isn't it? It's a real arm wrestle, so it's probably not amazing on the eye. But Graham Alexander will be looking to try and improve. That's what signings and freshening things up is all about. I agree in terms of top end. I still think that Motherwell have never been able to replace Tony Watt so far. And that type of player up there with a Van Veen who on his day is very, very good. But it needs somebody else that can really share that load.
Do you agree with that, Stephen?
Absolutely. I mean, you said that, all right, we've qualified for Europe, and Graham Alexander comes out and says, out with penalties, we were the fourth top goal scorers in the division last season. That's okay, looking at those stats and saying we qualified for Europe. But what everybody's missing is the fact that we lost Tony Watt in January.
Yes.
We won 3 games since then. We haven't replaced him, and we don't look like replacing him. So there's a glaring hole in that side. And it's worrying to me that the manager saying he's happy with the firepower, and again saying he's happy with that performance last night, because I'm sure you guys watched the game. I thought Sligo Rovers were the better team last night.
I wonder if last night might be a trigger to get back into the transfer market. It might just be a reality check about what Motherwell have and don't have, Stephen.
It has to be. It has to be, because everybody with half a footballing brain can see it. So surely the guy employed by the football club can. Surely.
I think that what at times happens, Stephen, is when majority of people see the game play out in a certain way, and you're saying 1-0, it's maybe lucky to be 1-0, and then obviously the comments after the match is kind of doesn't really reflect what you've seen, and I think that's when the real frustration kicks in. Sometimes I think it's better off just being brutally honest, saying that it wasn't anywhere near the level that is required at Motherwell. They're disappointed with the result, and I think fans can kind of appreciate maybe that tact a little bit more.
Yeah, and listen, I would love nothing more than to be proven wrong here. But again, you want honesty from a manager. You want a manager to say what you've seen. And I can guarantee you that 7,000 Motherwell fans in that stadium, I don't know what some of them came to, mind you, because we only usually get 3,500 every week, but 4,000. But I can guarantee you the majority of folk in that stadium seen the same last night, that wasn't good enough.
Stephen, good to have you on the show. Thanks a lot. Take care of yourself, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers, Stephen.
Cheers.
All the best. That's Stephen Reside, who is not too happy already this season with what he is watching. And if you got off to a bad start, and quite a few significant clubs have got off to a pretty bad start in Scotland, the likes of St Johnstone and St Mirren and Hibs, of course. We'll talk about them in the course of the show as well. But we're going to hear from Ange Postecoglou in a moment. Not live at the dinner table last night, but from an interview that he's done during the day. Just looking at, we're constantly trying to update with what Rangers and Celtic have and haven't done. Obviously Rangers, Goldson, Davis, McGregor, Arfield were already there, and they've had their deals extended, 3 of them just by a year. Goldson, of course, signed a 4-year. Ben Davis from Liverpool, Rabi Matondo, Antonio Cholak, Tom Lawrence, John Souttar was signed on a pre-contract from Hearts. Malik Tillman is on loan from Bayern. That's essentially Rangers at the moment. Celtic, Jota, Carter Vickers and Maida, both of their loans turned into permanent. Alexandro Bernabe, the Argentinian left back, is a new arrival. Aaron Moy, of course, we'll talk to Craig about him in the show. The Australian international midfielder. Benji Siegrist is goalkeeping competition for Joe Hart. Moritz Jens is a German 23-year-old central defender on loan from Lorient in France. Let's hear from the manager then about recent recruitment. Here he is.
Ultimately, the recruiting's about making us stronger. We've got to be stronger than last year. We've got to improve. We want to sort of make sure that the league is still our focus. We want to be able to defend our title, and to do that, I think we have to be stronger. And that's where our recruiting has sort of been focused on. Just the gaps we had from last year, try and fill those gaps, and in general, just make the squad a little bit more robust than we were last year.
That's an interesting phrase, isn't it? More robust. Yeah.
Well, look, I think both the business so far of Rangers and Celtic has been exciting. I think both understand that you can't afford to stand still. I mean, Andrew said it there in terms of to be able to go and win a title and be the hunted, I guess, this season, you need to continue to improve. Rangers are looking to do the same thing. It's exciting, Rob. Seen a lot of good talent, and again, go back. This is the benefit of doing well in Europe, Champions League football, playing at the highest level, because it brings a lot of money into the game. Good sales at the right time of players, because then it gets reinvested, and I think that's great because it continues to raise the bar. Hearts have gone about their business. Everybody's looking to improve. I'm really excited about this season with the amount of talent that's coming from both sides.
Get your thoughts on Aaron Moy. Had a brief spell at St Mirren, of course, in Scottish football earlier on. I think he's got a Scottish wife. He's been back here for a while. I read today that he's been training in a public park, keeping himself sharp, and the deal has been done with Celtic. And he was asked at the media conference how it was to be face to face again with Ange Postecoglou.
He's still intimidating, yeah. He just has that aura about him. So, I don't know what to say. He's done an amazing job so far at Celtic, and I'm sure he will continue to do well.
And that's a 31-year-old midfield player, bags of experience, been round the block a few times, and he's still a little bit scared when he's in the company of the manager. Yeah,
and also I think in front of the media, he's not fantastic in front of the media. He's quite reserved, but I tell you what, he's a fantastic player. And you touch on experience, Rob. I think that's key as to why Aaron has ended up at Celtic. I think it's really good business. Know the player extremely well. He's played at the highest level. His ability to get about the park, his range of passing, his delivery. He's a really, really good player. And it was one that I will be honest and say I did try to push the Rangers first.
Right.
Because, I felt that, again, the quality of the player, maybe with the positions that were being filled at Rangers, slightly older, that it didn't really make a lot of sense. But for Celtic, it does. Ange knows a player, like I said, extremely well. He's a good addition. He's a very, very good player. Settling in, no problem. He's been here for the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, and yet again, with a lot of Ange Postecoglou's signings, he knows exactly what he's getting, and this is somebody who can hit the ground running like most of the new arrivals in the last 12 months have done. Really important, isn't it? Signings that not only that you get them right, but it happens quickly. You do need to hit the ground running at the big clubs because there is so much expectation, and more importantly, the big games, you don't build into them. They're now. They're the next game, the next game, the next game. So, look, Aaron, he'll go about his business. Like I says, he's a quiet lad, but he's played at a top level. He went into the World Cup qualifiers for Australia against the UAE and Peru on the back of no football, and he played 120 minutes against Peru. He's just a top professional, looks after himself, and he is real quality. Craig Moore and Rob McLean talking football.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland. Let's go!
Cheers, Chris. Another update on the traffic and the travel in about 20 minutes' time. I'm going to speak about James Tavernier in a moment, the prospect of an extended deal and maybe a deal to finish his football days at Ibrox as well. But just finishing what we were talking about pre-break and travel there, Aaron Moy You're pretty confident he's going to make a good impact at Celtic, Craig, and he's got English Premier League experience. I mean, we've seen how comfortable he's been in that league, so you would imagine he's going to offer, even at the age of 31. I mean, some people will look at the age, but he's ready to go.
Look, there's a reason why Aaron Mooy has not got to the very, very top. And why I say that, he's played in the Premier League. I'm talking about top Premier League clubs. Is only because he would lack that speed. But Rob, he can run all day. He can repeat efforts physically, aerobically. He's incredible. For me, he's always had that side. His range of passing and his delivery spot on. He comes up with important moments. He's got experience, so he's played at a high level, and that's what you kind of need, I think, to do well at the big clubs. So he'll be no problem at all, and he'll hit the ground running. So he's a very, very good signing.
Just one more from Aaron Mooy talking about his new manager and his old manager at international level before we talk Rangers, not just James Tavernier, but also Reid van Yilmaz. That deal sounds as if it's pretty close to being completed. And also an Italian striker on Rangers' radar at Wolves, Patrick Cutrone. We'll talk about him in a minute, but here's Aaron Mooy on Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, hopefully it's a great time. The manager I obviously know from the national team for a few years. He likes to play good football, play on the deck, quick triangle patterns, and I enjoyed it a lot when I was working with him in the national team. So it obviously makes it a little bit easier for me, the transition, because I know sort of what he likes. So hopefully it all works out for me and for everyone.
Like you say, he'll do his talking on the pitch, I think, Aaron Mooy, won't he?
Yeah, no, he certainly doesn't love the media side of things. But like I says, I mean, it's not for everybody, Rob, in terms of the way that they come across. He does it because he knows that it is part of the game, but he's certainly a lot happier out in that football field. There's no doubt about that.
The Celtic fans won't really care what he's like in front of a microphone or a camera, as long as he delivers on the pitch, and every chance he will. Ange Postecoglou hasn't got too much wrong in recent times. Rangers about to deal in James Tavernier, it seems, an extension to his arrangement, and at the age of 30 you would think an extended deal will mean he will be at Rangers for life, and I don't think anyone among the Rangers fans will be complaining about that. He's grown as a player and as a leader as well, and that's good news for your old club, Craig.
Yeah, I think so. Look, and no doubt within that extension, you'll find a testimonial in there somewhere that will be thoroughly deserved. It's not often now you see players, at a club for 10 years plus, which is basically what he'd be up to 12 years at Rangers. And you touched on it, Rob. I think it's the way that the timing that he come in. Obviously, the club was still striving and looking to improve. He's been part of that journey. I think as a captain, he's done a fantastic job. He's managed to lift a title now, but his numbers are, season in, season out, are just incredible. They really are. Goals, assists, and he knocks them out regular. So I think those type of characters, especially a captain, if you can keep them at your club, it just gives you a great platform in terms of the new players that are always coming in. You've got that person that can drive that culture.
I'm not sure he's a shouter and a screamer as a captain, but he's a standard setter.
For sure. And I actually think that over certainly the last 12 months that we have seen vocally that he is a little bit more.
Than he was, yeah.
Yeah, he is a little bit more willing to have I'm saying encourage or try to motivate players. So again, that comes with age, doesn't it? And you can see that he's really grown into the role very, very well. Like I says, his numbers are incredible. People can say that, defensively he's not great. Well, the truth of the matter is that Rangers majority of the time domestically are attacking, and I'll tell you what, he goes all right at that. So I'm happy with that. In the European stuff, the way that the game has been played, he's shown that he's more than capable at that level and to do a great job there as well. So he's been fantastic for me.
He's always been a great penalty taker, free kick taker as well.
Penalties, yeah.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, a lot of his goals have come from set pieces, but I think increasingly his goals are coming from open play as well. The timing of those runs into the far post, I mean, that's an area in which he has improved big time.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've seen so many times, probably under Steven Gerrard in terms of, furthest forward in that wide area a lot of the time. Balls getting crossed from a left fullback and Tavernier as a right fullback getting it. Changed slightly under Giovanni. But then again, they were given that licence to get forward, and he's great at that, isn't he? I mean, not only, as you touch on, free kicks, penalties, where he's been clinical. He can score. He can shoot from the outside of the box. He can cut in and do things with his left foot if need be. Just a top player.
Very much aware of what Borna Barisic has been doing down the left side. How many times in recent seasons have we seen that the ball curled in by the left back, and the right back is in on the end of it to score. How long Barisic stays at Rangers, I'm not sure. He's still there at the moment. There seems to be constant speculation about him that he's going to move on. He's still there, and at the moment they need him with the departure of Calvin Bassey. I'm not sure we've spoken on air since that deal was done. The best part of 20 million with maybe 3 of add-ons. Yep. That's big money from Ajax, who tend to produce their own players.
Yeah, I mean. Ajax, the business model is incredible. You don't normally see him going and spending this type of money, but they do. And Rangers couldn't say no to this. Bassey, the growth and the improvement in the last 6 to 12 months has been incredible. It really has. But I mean, Ajax still feel as if there's improvement there. Playing European football. And they know that, Rob, within 3 years, they'll sell him for 50, 60 million to the Premiership. So it's good business for them. You touched on Borna Barisic, who did, by all accounts, do extremely well in the game against West Ham. It's another opportunity for him. And let's not forget, he has taken a little bit of flack and probably at times lost his confidence. But he still is a Croatian international player. Yeah. You're no mug if you're playing for the national team of Croatia. So, Rangers will look to strengthen in that area, but, I think it's important that Barisic, and he has the ability to really buckle down there and make that position his own again.
We spoke about Reid van Yilmaz right at the top of the show, the Besiktas 21-year-old left back. €6 million with a 20% sell-on clause is what's being spoken about at the moment. You don't tend to get those sort of details unless a deal is pretty close to being done. So that. If you're going to pay that sort of money, he is going to be playing. Whether will Giovanni go with a back four next season? Will he go with a 3 to accommodate John Souttar, Goldson, Ben Davis? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, look, I think what Giovanni showed us last season, in particular in Europe, Rob, is that he's brave enough to tactically make changes. I think it was more John Lundstrom, wasn't it, last year, went into that hybrid kind of role where he popped in as a third centre defender, and then when he felt as if he needed the overload in the middle of the park, he'd push forward. So Giovanni has that ability to change things. I think Rangers have got fantastic options. I think it's important to always have two players challenging each other for that position, and I think they're in a good space. Maybe one more striker. And I think then I'd be quite comfortable in going to then attack the season. One more striker I think Rangers need. And that striker could be Patrick Cutrone, who is at Wolves at the moment. Hasn't played a whole lot of football with Wolves. He's been capped by Italy right through the age groups. One cap for the senior side. And James, the producer, said, come on, one cap. But actually, one cap for Italy proves that you've got yourself to a certain level. I think he's only 24. And reports are telling us that it is between Rangers and Celta Vigo as to who gets him. And we're not sure whether that would be an actual transfer or whether it might be a loan. Yeah, but, maybe people can debate in terms of the one cap, and I agree. The Italian national side, they're normally very, very good sides that have won a lot of trophies. There's another clue that Wolves paid £16 million to AC Milan for him to come first across. And the very fact that he's been at Milan in the first place. Clearly the player has a bit of ability. Whether or not it ends up being a done deal, but again, it kind of just goes to what I kind of feel. Morelos coming back from an injury, I have no doubt he'll come back and have a really good season, Rob. Roof's had his injuries, hasn't he? Sakala you can put there, but he's not really that striker. Obviously, Cholak has come in and I'm sure will do well. But I think with the amount of games and the scheduling this season for Rangers, I think another striker would be good business.
Does the fact that Morelos is coming back after injury and he isn't quite ready, does that make you think he's going to be with Rangers this season, at least until January anyway, rather than a deal being done right now when he's not quite ready?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't think anybody would be willing to take a risk on the back of an injury. It's not a serious injury. Morelos will be absolutely fine, Rob. But I've always felt that there's obviously speculation all the time. I would like to see him re-sign at Rangers because I believe that he's happy. I believe he can go and score 25, 30 goals this season. And I do believe, and people might laugh at it, that his value then would go up to 20 million again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because he's, how old? I mean, is he 25?
25. And look, and again, people can argue about the quality or, he's not a great striker. Forget that. You're banging in 25, 30 goals a season, right? The market will dictate in terms of if that was a move to the Premiership, it's 15 to 20 million pound for that type of player.
What would be really interesting would be if Rangers can qualify for the Champions League and he's still there. It would be really, because he's proved that he can score goals at Europa League level. Could he do it at Champions League level? Yeah,
well, again, until we actually see that, it's like, I believe he can. I think that the European football is suited. He's the type of player that doesn't necessarily, Rob, need to be involved in every single action. But, when it gets around about that box, he's going to make a handful of himself. He's going to be he's going to be a pain in the bottom. But he gets on the end of things. He's got that confidence. He makes defenders a little bit nervy. I think that can translate to the Champions League.
Thanks for saying pain in the bottom. Wondered where you were going there with that one. Rangers against Celtic this season. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's fascinating to compare what they've done in the transfer market. It doesn't seem as if there's a whole lot between the quality of the two squads at the moment. It is going to be some campaign coming up, and it all starts, of course, a week tomorrow. It's League Cup tomorrow, the end of the group stages. You watched that interview with Joe Savage, Hearts sporting director. He was talking about a challenge to Celtic and Rangers for the title. I think most people wouldn't take that too seriously, to be honest. Yes, be ambitious, but also a touch of realism is handy as well, is it not?
Yeah, look, a tough interview. Look, you got to, Joe's obviously been brave in terms of, the club, they want to head into a certain direction, come up from the Championship, secure third place, get to a cup final. Obviously got some runs on the board in terms of the players that they would like to be able to continue to attract at the football club. He touches on himself, he touches on it in regards to closing the gap, but winning the title for me, outside of Rangers Celtic, is a long way off. If actually it can ever happen. I'm saying ever. That's long. That's long. That's a big. But you know what I'm saying.
In the near future.
There's just too much, Rob, in terms of the depth of the squads, in terms of the mentality to be able to continue and go on, win game after game after game. That pressure day in, day out. There'd have to be some serious changes at the chasing clubs, the Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, and these kind of things, and we haven't seen it for 40 odd years.
I think what Hearts could well do this season is potentially stretch even further clear of the rest.
Yeah.
And they had a really strong hold on third place last season. They must have secured that effectively very early in the season, where normally you expect a bit of competition for that position.
Yeah, and also so you look at the end of every season. So Hearts were clear third, and a long way out. That was already locked away, Rob. And then you start to already look at the new season, and who can show that improvement. Now you'd like to think that Aberdeen are going to be able to improve. Time will tell. But Jim Goodwin obviously trying to put his own stamp on the team. Need to start well. Hibs are showing no signs of improvement in the early stages of this season. It's been an absolute disaster. Start from in the cup, and then the teams that are finishing the bottom six, then they're not getting the results necessarily in the cup competition. That pressure becomes immediate. It really does. So Hearts have got every chance of being able to kick on and be a clear third, because there's nobody jumping out the pack.
I've interviewed Lee Johnson twice this season, both times after shock defeats. One at Falkirk and one the other night at Easter Road against Morton, where they lost on penalties. But it's not just going wrong on the pitch for them, it's off the pitch as well at the moment. Hibs with Rocky Bushiri playing in that game against Morton the other night, where he shouldn't have been because he was suspended. He did a couple of yellow cards. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, Hibs have kind of held their hand up and said it was pretty much incompetent in terms of what happened off the pitch. And when it's sloppy off the pitch, it can be sloppy on the pitch as well, can't it?
Yep. Look, unfortunately, I mean, these are the small details, Rob, and they're costly, as this situation has proven. I mean, I believe this is the same player that maybe got a trigger to his deal that was unknown to the club at the time. So again, that's preparation, that's doing your work properly, and if it's not being done at that level, what's being acceptable, below that, it for me just seems a little bit messy still at the moment.
This is a club that's got a recent record of getting to semi-finals and finals regularly of the cup competitions. Now, that's one trophy gone already.
Yeah, and look, I mean, kind of I still scratch my head a little bit in terms of the departure of Jack Ross.
Yeah, I think Ron Gordon possibly scratching his head about it as well.
And you look, when Jack was there was a structure, there was an organisation about the football club. He presented not only his team but for the club in the right way. And I'm not saying these, Maloney and now Lee don't present themselves in the right way, but it just seems as if there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and it just seems a little bit crazy, in the background.
Yeah. And Jack Ross will take a whole lot of satisfaction this season if Dundee United finish above Hibs in the table, and he is making some pretty impressive signings of late Dylan Levitt back at the club, and of course Stephen Fletcher, the former Scotland striker, is there as well. Looks like he's building something pretty impressive at Tannadice.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland.
Let's go!
Craig Moore and Rob McLean on the Go Radio Football Show on a Friday. Hope you're going to have a good weekend. It's the League Cup group stages coming to a close tomorrow. Then, next Saturday, you'll be well aware, it is the start of the SPFL Premiership season. As Rangers look to be closing in on another signing, Reid van Yilmaz from Besiktas, the 21-year-old left back, sounds like that deal is going to get done at about €6 million with a 20% sell-on clause. At the same time, on the other side of the back four, potentially James Tavernier is ready to sign an extended deal at Rangers, and will take him, you would imagine, into double figures years at the club. They kick off their league campaign looking to get the title back, starting at Ammanvale against Livingston. I wonder if Lee Griffiths might be lining up at that game. I don't think so, if the noises are accurate at the moment. He is training with Davy Martindale's team, no contract on offer at the moment. And you just wonder what the future holds for former Scotland striker Lee Griffiths.
Yeah, look, it seems as if, unfortunately, it's getting harder and harder to try and secure something. Lee, when you drop down the levels like he did last season in Falkirk, you really need to, I think, shine and do extremely well to then find your way back in, Rob, to get that opportunity. Look, there's no doubting Lee Griffiths, a fantastic player, has had a wonderful career, scored some very, very important goals. But it doesn't look great for him, and I just feel as if the longer it goes, the less opportunities there are really, and then you want to go out with some kind of dignity as well in terms of the player that you've been in, the career that you've had.
You just can't help thinking that for one club, for some club somewhere, a little short-term deal, get him fit, get him ready. He doesn't need to be running about too much, and he can still score goals. Anyway, we shall find out how that one pans out. Livingston against Rangers on the opening day in the Cinch Premiership. Hearts against Ross County at Tynecastle. Could be interesting at Tynecastle. Malky Mackay has rung the changes at Ross County, brought in a fair bit of talent last time around. Some of it has moved on, of course. Hearts preparing for a guaranteed 8 games in Europe apart from the domestic campaign. Kilmarnock against Dundee United. 2 smart managers there. Derek McInnes has added significantly to the squad at Rugby Park. And of course, I was touching earlier on, Craig, on the fact that Jack Ross at Dundee United, who will have something to prove, I think, back in the Premiership, and he'll really desperately he won't say this, I'm sure, or admit it, but he'll want to prove Hibs wrong, that they made the wrong call to get rid of him. Stephen Fletcher, Dylan Levitt, Craig Sibbald, Birighitti, the Australian
Aussie
goalkeeper.
boy. Yeah. Look, I mean, I think Jack's always been very good in the market. You'd be excited that he's back in. It's a wonderful opportunity. Dundee United performed extremely well last season. They seem to be a club that there is that stability there in terms of playing group now and being able to add to it. Birras, I know well, Birighitti, the Australian keeper. So he'll give him a good base. He's a very, very good goalkeeper.
Some gloves to fill. Benji Siegrist was terrific.
Yeah, he was. But I think Dundee United fans will like Birighitti. He'll make big saves. His distribution is decent. He's a good character. He'll leave it all out there. So I think the Dundee United supporters will like him. But yeah, Jack Rossi, look, you always want to prove yourself. And there's always motivation, Rob, coming from somewhere. I think Jack hasn't maybe spoken too much about the situation at Hibs, but I think majority of people felt as if he was extremely hard done by. This is his opportunity back in to go show what he can do, and I think he'll continue to do extremely well for Dundee United.
St Johnstone against Hibs on the opening day. We've spoken plenty about Hibs. Ron Gordon's been having a go about the scheduling. Hibs are complaining about everything at the moment. I think their fans are complaining about what's happening on the pitch or not happening on the pitch. But we talk about Lee Johnson. Of course, it's far too early to be thinking about pulling the trigger 4 League Cup games in. But then Sean Maloney only got 15 more games than that. And on the other side of the fence, Callum Davidson's under a little bit of pressure already. You would think off the back of that great escape last season, and already in the League Cup they lost on penalties to Annan, lost on penalties to Queen of the South, beat Elgin 4-2. They were 4-0 up, lost a couple of goals in that game as well. It's an inauspicious start to the season, and you're not going to get the bullet based on what's happened in these League Cup group games, but it can kick on into the league campaign as well, can't it? Yeah,
it's been a tough year for St Johnstone on the back of the double cup success. That you got players that at the start of last season had moved on because probably want to rewarded. Therefore, St Johnstone weren't able to do that. They lost a couple of players. This season's a real test. They lost Xander Clark. It was big. It was big for them. A goalkeeper is so important to any team. One that can give you that stability, that make the big saves. That, for me, is going to be really important that St Johnstone can get that right.
And he's the guy you associate very closely with their double cup success the season before. On the Sunday, 2 games, St Mirren against Motherwell. We spoke with Motherwell. Stephen was on earlier on in the show, bemoaning the performance. Not too happy with the manager either. But St Mirren are hardly flying either. In terms of their start to the season, lost at home to Arbroath in the League Cup, beat Cowdenbeath, as you would expect they would, then lost 2-0 at Airdrie. So he got off to a shaky start, did Stephen Robinson. And again, you just wonder how much time the St Mirren fans will give him unless they make a convincing start in the league.
You need to start well, and again, unfortunately, with the League Cup, Rob, as you touch on, these kind of dodgy results against smaller teams, I guess, in lower divisions, they do put pressure on you. There's no doubt about that. So you've got to start the season well. Look, Stephen Robinson's shown, the type of manager he is, the type of football that he wants to play. It's so important that he gets the right players in, which he's still trying to do. And I think he'll do well. I think he will do well. But the timing and getting that run of performances, it needs to start in pre-season. That hasn't been there for him. Maybe been a few niggles, a few players that have come in a little bit later than what he would have liked. Keanu Bacchus being one of them, the Australian lad. But I think he'll be fine, mate. I think he'll be fine.
It's that scary moment where we're about to hear from Ange Postecoglou, and we look up in the studio and he's on the screen beaming out at us from Lennoxtown. It is Celtic against Aberdeen. on the opening weekend. That's the Sunday match in the East End of Glasgow. I heard from earlier on talking about recruitment, and that includes, of course, nailing down the three players, including Maeda, Jota, Carter Vickers, who were on loan. They're now a permanent part of the Celtic squad.
So we knew sort of what we needed, and as you said, part of that process was making players like Jota and Cameron sort of permanent members of our squad, because we feel like it's not just because they were good last year, it's because we think they're a good investment for us. We think the best football's still ahead of them, obviously. They're still young, relatively young in age, so important to get them back in. And then also, like I said, just fill in some gaps that I felt we had in the squad last year. The areas we got stretched in, we had some significant injuries, was because we just didn't have the quality and depth that we needed, and we've looked to try and address that this year.
I'm interested to know what you think, Craig, about the central defence at Celtic next season. Obviously it was Carter Vickers and Starfelt. Starfelt improved certainly as the season went on. The numbers were very good for Celtic defensively. They've just signed Moritz Jens, German, on loan from Lorient. I just wonder if he's going to threaten to get into that Celtic defence.
I definitely feel as if that's a real possibility. Carter Vickers was the one that I think week in, week out you kind of knew was going to play, staying fit and healthy, and he was solid. Starfelt obviously had a bit of a shaky start. He does have experience though, and did seem to grow into the role. Rob picked up a little bit of an injury, but you would think that Moritz Jens would be challenging Starfelt to try and get into that starting 11.
Yeah, and he looks like, I haven't seen too much of him playing, but he looks like a big unit and maybe a bit more bulk size. I mean, Ange said right at the top of the show he wants the squad to be more robust, so maybe a bigger figure, a more domineering type of centre-back is what we're going to see. Yeah,
as long as there's good speed, because against Celtic, he domestically dominating most games, so you've got to defend high up the pitch, which means you've got to be able to get back into good early positions. So I'm sure that's the case, otherwise he wouldn't have brought him in.
What about any more business?
It's fair to say we'll still be active. Whether we get deals done, we'll see. It has to be the right ones. But I think we'll still be active. We expect some comings and goings, I assume, over the next 2-3 weeks, while the window's open. So, without putting any certainty around it, I'd say we'll still be, alert and ready to go if the right solution comes.
The thing about Celtic is they're in a great starting position, aren't they? Because of the 15 that he signed in 12 months. The first 12 months, most of them were hits, not too many misses. And all he's doing here is just upping the quality factor, I guess. Yeah,
and look, I don't think that there'll be any more business at Celtic unless they're like maybe a Yeti. If they manage to get a Yeti out the door, Mikey Johnstone, I believe, probably needs to be playing first team football somewhere. So maybe there's some opportunities elsewhere. For a player like that. If that was to happen, Rob, then I'm sure they'll be ready to maybe do something else.
And just finally, it does sound as if that deal's going to get done, doesn't it? Plenty of detail on Ridvan Yilmaz, €6 million from Besiktas to Rangers. I would imagine look out for that one in the next little while.
Yeah, and like I said, at a very good age, Rob, 21 years of age. It's a lot of money to spend on a young player, so there's obviously a high opinion of the lad.
Craig, thanks a lot. Good to hear from you.
Cheers.
As ever on a variety of subjects. That's it from the Go Radio Football Show for this week. We're back on Monday. Have a great weekend.
The Go Radio Football Show with MacklinMotors.com, representing some of the biggest motoring manufacturers across Scotland.
Let's go! Service your existing car with us right now,
and it's worth £500 off your next car.
Yes, at Macklin Motors Toyota, we'll give you a £500 voucher off any of our brand new Toyotas when you book in for a service with our expert Toyota trained technicians.
We even have complimentary courtesy cars available, so book your service now and get £500 off any new Toyota.
Visit macklinmotors.co.uk or see us at Kennishead Road, Darnley.
Macklin Motors, the new name for Toyota sales and servicing in Glasgow.
Valid on services till 30th September. Excludes Motability and fleet customers. One £500 voucher per vehicle purchased by 31st December.